DialogueWORKS, recipes for conversations that work. Conducting the annual performance review for salaried personnel. This recipe focuses on the annual performance review of a salaried employee. The purpose of the annual performance review is to create more open, two-way communication and to increase engagement. This conversation also provides the opportunity to reinforce your expectations, identify developmental goals and growth opportunities, and to link individual performance to organizational goals and initiatives. Before we talk about how to conduct the review, there are a number of tips that will help you conduct a more successful review and make the conversation a positive experience. First, avoid surprises. The annual review should be just that, a review of the year's performance, not a revelation of poor performance that occurred 6 months ago. No one likes to be ambushed by what they didn't know. This should not be the first time you are talking about a person's performance that didn't meet expectations. Second, be prepared. You need to be ready to share positive examples of the employee's performance that met expectations. You also need to be prepared with specific examples of performance that didn't meet expectations in case the employee asks for specifics. Finally, you should be prepared to provide examples of exceptional performance if the individual requests examples of what it would look like to exceed your expectations. You can't expect individuals to surprise and delight you if they don't know what you want. Third, don't assume anything. You cannot assume that your expectations have been clear. Be sure to ask questions to ensure that you have communicated clearly and specifically. Don't hesitate to provide examples of what good performance looks like. Fourth, separate talk of money from performance. Depending upon past history, many employees equate the annual review with the notification of what their raise will be for the coming year. This causes them to focus on financial benefits rather than on performance. If this is the case, you should explain that you will speak about financial issues at another time, and that your focus in this conversation is to review performance, clarify expectations, and focus on identifying future goals and opportunities. Fifth, focus on the individual, not the form. This conversation is not about the form. Every organization has its own process and documentation for holding a performance review. The temptation is to talk solely about the form. This recipe should take the focus off the form and onto the individual and the process of identifying goals for the future. Finally, help the individual to prepare to talk about their performance. There are a number of questions that you will want to ask during the review process. Provide a copy of the questions you will ask and then request that the individual prepare to answer the questions from their perspective. This allows the individual to think about the questions and hopefully provide a heartfelt response. Now, let's talk about using the DialogueWORKS process for holding the annual performance review conversation. How do we initiate? Initiating the performance review conversation begins with the description of the purpose of the conversation by using a longer attention check as a statement of the overall purpose of the conversation. For example, you might say, I would like to review your performance for the past year by talking about your accomplishments, challenges, and improvements. Then I'd like to answer any questions you might have about the review document. Finally, I'd like to talk about areas of focus and what support you will need from me in the coming year. Is that okay with you? As soon as the employee agrees to the content of the conversation, move immediately to discovery. How do we discover? The whole purpose of this phase of the conversation is to get the employee talking. which will not only increase engagement, but will also help you improve your understanding. Usually, performance reviews are done to a person rather than with them. You want to ensure that the employee does most of the talking. In the discovery phase of the conversation, you will want to ask questions to learn. The questions you will want to ask are as follows. What was your greatest accomplishment this year? What were some of your challenges during the year? What learning or improvement occurred? What questions do you have about the review document? After asking each of these questions, give your full attention to the individual as they respond. After they have given their response, add your perspective to what they shared. You may either agree or disagree with them. If you agree, build on what they have shared. If you disagree with their perspective, be prepared to share an example to support your view. After either agreeing or disagreeing, always end with a positive statement that encourages the individual to continue with their best efforts. For example, you might say, I have a different perspective. I believe you, provide an example. However, I know you will continue to improve. After ending with a positive statement, then continue by asking the next question, listed above. Repeat this process until you come to the question about the review document. If they don't agree with or understand your evaluation of their performance, be prepared to provide examples where necessary. After answering their questions, you are ready to move to connection. How do we connect? You will connect by identifying their interests, clarifying expectations, and linking expectations to the organization's goals. In order to identify interests, you will want to ask the question, what would you like to do more or less of this coming year? Notice this question has a future orientation and is used to help select a developmental goal or two for the coming year. What if the person identifies a particular task as something that they would like to do less, and yet you really need them to continue to do that particular task? Always explore the reasons for their dislikes. Then address their concerns. Be clear and specific about what you need them to do, whatever the task may be. After doing so, you will need to clarify your expectations of their performance. In order to check the clarity of their understanding in meeting your expectations, you will simply ask, what areas should you focus on in the coming year? Asking this question allows you to assess their understanding of what is expected. Consequently, if there is a misunderstanding around particular goals, clarify the goals by making a definitive statement such as, I would expect you to focus on... Does that make sense? Ending in a question allows you to check their understanding of your expectations. When identifying and establishing focus, be sure to clarify the what from the how. The what is the statement of the goal or objective to be achieved. The how is the plan or desired behavior for reaching the desired goal. Here's how a combination of the what and the how might sound. I would like you to increase your sales next year. There's the what. By making at least 40 calls a day and by networking with other sales reps. There's the how. What do you think? Notice we always end in a question to invite engagement and increase our understanding. Also, once you have agreed upon a goal, you might want to have the individual develop a plan of action to achieve the goal. This allows the individual to take responsibility for formulating a plan and increases the buy-in of the individual to execute their plan. After clarifying expectations, you are ready to link expectations to the organization's goals. Linking individual goals to the organization's goals connects the individual performance to the organization's success, increases individual motivation, and establishes the value for the individual's contribution. Once you have identified interest, clarified expectations, and linked goals, you're ready to build. How do we build? In the building phase of the conversation, you will begin by reinforcing the positive aspects of the person's performance and then asking, what support will you need from me to be successful in the coming year? You will want to ask this question for every goal that has been identified. Listen to their responses and then incorporate their requests into an executable plan. Once you have done this, you will want to summarize the plans for agreed-upon performance and developmental goals by using questions such as, so we agree that you will continue to, you need me to. After agreeing upon the goals for the coming year, you will want to gain commitment by asking the usual commitment questions such as, can you? Will you? What might get in the way? What else should you be aware of? Asking these questions reinforces the importance of achieving the goal and keeping commitments. Holding an effective performance review is one of the most important conversations that you can hold. The purpose of the review is to review the year's performance, create mutual accountability, and to build relationships, increase respect, and achieve results. Let's summarize the recipe for holding the annual review. Initiate by using a longer statement of purpose in the attention check that identifies what you want to talk about, accomplishments, challenges, learning and improvements, the review document, and areas of focus and support. Discover by asking the first 4 questions to learn and gain an understanding of their perspective. Add your perspective to their perspective after each question. If you agree, you might build on what they have said and provide your own example. If you disagree, you will need to be prepared to share specific examples or data of performance that did not meet expectations. In either case, you want to end with a positive statement. You should repeat this process for each question. Connect by identifying their interests in order to set a developmental goal. You will also want to clarify your expectations about the goals for the coming year. Finally, you will want to identify the what and how for each goal to be accomplished. Then finish connecting by taking the opportunity to link expectations to the goals of the organization to increase motivation and the individual's sense of value. Finally, build by reinforcing the positive aspects of the person's performance and ask what support they may need from you. Summarize the agreed-upon performance and developmental goals and plans. Finally, end the conversation by gaining commitment. Remember that holding an effective performance review is about improving performance in the future. This conversation should be a mutually satisfying exchange. Taking the time to prepare and use this recipe will help you to create a conversation that will build respect and trust, improve accountability, increase engagement, and assure results. That's what we're all about. Conversations that work.